Welcome to Syncast powered by Commercient. My name is Heath. Joining me today is Scott Gurley at DoRodo. Scott, you are Director of Sales and Marketing. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Director of Sales and Marketing. So everything sales, everything marketing. The balance can be challenging between the two, but they go hand in glove and definitely contribute to each other. Can't have one without the other. I started here in 2019, early 2019, to run our caster and wheel company. We manufacture industrial casters and wheels, not your typical commodity products, high quality, engineered to solve specific problems that are, engineers that we work with are facing, all in an effort to make things for their end users easier.
Excellent. So the casters and wheels, do you have then like larger companies that maybe make equipment for, say, hospitals, gurneys, or those trays, almost tables that you see them moving around when they have to go room to room? Does DoRodo work with those companies?
So yeah, we work with a lot of OEMs that are designing the equipment, designing the medical devices, automotive transport carts, robotics, pretty much every industry we have our foot in. And mainly when it comes to the OEMs, typically we're working with their contract manufacturers. So they're not typically manufacturing and doing that whole process. We work with another whole level of companies that are doing that for them.
Gotcha. Excellent. And Scott, you and I have spoken before, and you explained to me that your office, which is or I should probably say warehouse, which is in Grand Rapids, Michigan, you have a smaller staff there, but you have two plants, if I'm not mistaken, overseas that actually do the manufacturing. And I was wondering if you could just tell me a little bit about that, and then we'll segue into talking a little bit about leadership and your philosophy and everything about that.
Yeah, so our company, we have two joint venture partnerships, two very renowned brands. Footmaster is located in Seoul, South Korea, and Sciopa Casters and Wheels is in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Both have been in the caster and wheel industry for decades. So the way I like to explain it, we really don't go to market with our company. Our company name, I equate it to like an SC Johnson wax, having a Windex and the other brands that they bring to market. So you rarely see SC Johnson wax coming to market, but our company really works as the engineering and consultative arm of our two factories. So we work very closely with our engineers in Korea and our engineers in Brazil. So we're on the front lines helping engineers solve problems, working through new product development, get to work with a lot of great companies like Oakley, Delta Airlines, just to name a few. So it can be really fun in the product development stage because you're constantly pushing the envelope of innovation, not ever succumbing to what may not work, but asking the question, how can this be better, or what are the possibilities, or how far can we take it? So that side of it is always exciting. There's always a new project, so it's always fresh. And from the leadership side, it's really fun seeing our team constantly empowered with vision, because there's always ideas and concepts flying around. So it just opens their eyes to what these larger companies are trying to do and what they're trying to bring to market. And, in our industry, there's tons of puns when it comes to casters and wheels. So, we keep our customers rolling. We just make things mobile, and sometimes casters can be overlooked, but, being the one component that actually touches the ground and, makes a stationary vise be able to move around, it's a very important component.
Awesome. And a good little segue about leadership. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your philosophy. And also, I visited your social media, and I loved seeing how they did like a little profile on everybody. And they talked about, how as a leader, how you motivate everybody. And like you said, there's a vision and everybody works towards that vision. But I was wondering if you could share a little bit about your leadership philosophies.
Sure. And every leader, can offer the cliche phrases, leadership is being a servant. But where I like to focus is on the difference between empowering and enabling. So for me, to empower our people is to lend them strength, confidence, to establish them that, they've got a lot, more greater qualities in them than they can even realize. So I'm constantly trying to pull that out. So in a sense, you're never really calling people out, you're calling them up. And whereas enabling means, you're micromanaging, you're, constantly challenging people in a way that, may not be, what they need and that causes them to rise up, and they're always going to depend on you. So my job as a leader, at the end of the day, is to work myself out of a position. If my people, don't need me on any given day, that means I've done my job. And that's tough for a lot of leaders to accept. I remember thinking when I was younger that, leadership was all about title, platform, prestige, and it's not. People that have that idea getting into leadership often fail. And that's where you get, corporate America, full of, bad and toxic leaders. That takes it takes learning, I think, through experience and learning through failure as a leader. But you're always, you're accepting the blame, and you're always giving credit. That's one of the mantras I try to live by. Even if I do a fantastic job on a project and I can sit back and go, wow, I really dug deep to learn new skills and really expanded my capabilities. I'm still going to make sure that it's my team who gets the credit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think a lot of people have worked for a boss who was pretty micromanaging. I've worked for bosses that were hands-on, and it worked out really good, probably because it was a tiny little company. And I've also had the bosses that were kind of absent, but it worked out because, like you were saying, there was that trust. And sometimes I feel, kind of getting back to the micromanaging, is that then they're not trusting that the job can get done and everything. How do you avoid that feeling like you need to maybe jump in a little more than you should? Sometimes there is that kind of like feeling like, am I doing enough? Or did you just kind of develop a sense of, I trust my employees, we can do this together?
Well, the great thing about the time in which we live is, there are titans of leadership that have really, published a lot of good principles. Patrick Lencioni is one of my favorites, and he has the 5 dysfunctions of a team. And the base level is you have to have that trust. But then I think the very important level that a lot of people miss is accountability. Anytime that you have a lack of accountability, it is equated right back to having low standards. If there's low standards in a culture, people aren't challenged and encouraged to do things with excellence and precision and accuracy. And that motivation, I think, comes from you as a leader casting vision about what that looks like on the customer service side. And one of the downsides is about the day that we live in is it seems like customer service is just continually degrading. So if you can help your frontline personnel understand what kind of experience that you're creating for your customers, and then keep filling them with that vision, they get empowered with those high standards. They want to achieve those high standards. You see the same phenomenon on sports teams, on executive level teams, the greater continuity that you have and that high level of trust and being able to hold each other accountable. And that's tough to do. People are very tentative to stand in that place and correct someone in a positive way, because they feel like they're going to damage a friendship, or they're going to damage that work relationship, where it always has to be pointed back to the vision and what we're here to do, which is serve our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And in your mind, what could help customer service? Sometimes I have to get on a phone call with Apple or something simple like that, and sometimes they're candid and they're like, wow, you were really nice, thanks a lot. And I ask them, and they're candid, and I said, don't worry, I'm not saying anything. But sometimes the customers can just be a little maybe a little too brutal, for lack of a better word, or the customer service, it feels like it's spread too thin, and a lot of things fall through the cracks because of that. In your mind, what could help fix that, and delivering for customers?
I'm sure many people have seen, I saw a bumper sticker a long time ago that says mean people make little mean people.
Okay.
A different version of that is, hurting people hurt people. So if people are frustrated and they're in a bad spot, you can't take it personal. You're in that spot to, and not just give out the cookie cutter answers of, hey, I understand, because maybe you don't understand their situation. But it's just mirroring back their frustration and asking clarifying questions to understand. I think we get to that generic response just to get another response out of them or calm them down. But that's, that it's almost counterproductive when you do that. So just getting into those scenarios, and I'm a disciple of the golden rule, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So I think of what kind of treatment that I would like if I was super frustrated, and I adopt that.
Absolutely. Now I'd like to segue into Salesforce, and Commercient. And how does Salesforce help you as director of sales and marketing? Like you said, they both work hand in hand. Marketing delivers leads, sales close those deals. How does Salesforce help you and your team deliver, close more deals, take better care of customers and everything?
Well, I guess the top level point would be organization. So organizing your data. And there's, so many ways I could list to where, Salesforce is a huge advantage. But when I came on board in 2019, the team was still operating off Salesforce Classic. And I had come from an IT hardware support company where Salesforce was maxed out. It was customized. It was fit to help the salespeople, but also help support and accounting and finance. So I saw what it looked like to have that kind of symphony, and it really made work efficient. It made work fast, and you could really, one of the things that we preach here is run to the problem. There's always a lot of talk and trying to figure things out when you're sorting through an issue or a customer's issue or anything complex that you're dealing with in business, where we have the mindset of just running right to it and jumping in it and getting our hands dirty, and we'll figure out the rest when we're in it. Because the number one thing that I found that the customer needs in that moment is presence. And if we just get in there, and we're vulnerable, we're authentic, and we may not have the answers right now, but I'm in this with you and we're going to figure it out. So we got Salesforce. I had to teach myself how to be a Salesforce administrator, because I saw the big shiny object and the end result, and got to use it very effectively at my previous job. But then when I got here, it was the first time I got to look at the backside of it. And then I had to reverse engineer and figure out how to build, what I wanted tailor fit for our business. So we were on Salesforce Classic. We had no connection with our ERP system, and things were very disconnected. So when I got, like a mouse jumping in the wheel, when I got in there, it was so arduous to create quotes, to follow up with opportunities, to do all the things that, good salespeople are trained and are supposed to do. So in Salesforce, we've got all of our accounts, of course, which, have opportunities, which have quotes. Is the main tool that we get all of our prospects and leads, from our engineers or downloading drawings to maybe responding to something we posted on LinkedIn. So we use it, pretty much in all facets of the business for sales and marketing. And there's another bolt-on to Salesforce, which we use, Campaign Monitor, to stay in touch and to keep nurturing those customers.
Awesome. Commercient SYNC, we're integrating the data between your ERP Sage 200 Pro, I think, or Sage 200, and Salesforce. And obviously there's a lot of importance of having that data. In a previous conversation, you really summarized it as, if you're on the phone with a customer and you need to type up and see what's in stock, or see if you could check out, a certain configuration, you start typing that in, and that data had been synced over, and it just pops up in Salesforce instead of diving through different menus in your ERP. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about that. And then the other phase that we're helping with is we're keeping your company from having, at least now, and I hope you don't have to for a while, upgrading to a new ERP, because Sage 200, I think, was discontinued in 2014, I saw. But if you could talk a little bit about that, yeah, if you could talk a little bit about that, the first thing about the value of the ERP data in Salesforce for you and your team.
Right. So a big element that we were missing, was the accounting ledger. And to be able to, have access to all the sales history and, what products they were purchasing, just a wealth of data that, we have in our system that we weren't able to connect on the Salesforce side. And that was really a game changer for us in 2019 when I came on board in March. We ended up 2019, barely getting to 4 million. And again, in 2020, it was really kind of getting my head around the business and getting the right people, getting them trained, and really just dialing in the culture per se. And then in 2021, we finished well over 6 million as a company. And at this point in 2022, we're on the doorstep right now of 6 million, and it's only September. So you can see a very significant growth curve. And I contribute that to us being able to produce quotes faster, because all of our product data, was in our ERP system. And now that we have our product data, being synced over, I can do so much more on levels of hierarchy and organization, whether it be a finished product, an accessory, or hardware. And then we can enter those product attributes in a way that makes marketing easier. Now I can pull that stuff out. So there's tons of efficiencies there when it comes to workflow. And that time that we save not having to do that in an analog way, I guess is a put it, we can use that time now to grow the current customers that we have. And when I say grow, we're not just contacting them, hey, would you like to buy some additional casters? It's more of, hey, we understand what's going on with your business, and we're constantly innovating and engineering new products. We believe this can help you here. So it's more, it's more of that trusted advisor status that, every salesperson's trying to reach. And I think because of the syncing of the data, we're able to look at that, in a lot more granular way, and it's all connected for us. So we can track orders better for customer support. We can track payments better for our accounting and finance team. So again, there's just a ton of benefits, and it would probably take a longer podcast to list them all, but it's good.
Awesome. And again, we've talked about this before. I remember mentioning to you that we have a customer and also a consultant who both separately kind of alluded to the cost of changing a specific ERP and upgrading it. And that ERP is still, out there. It's still being supported. But if you look at it, it hasn't changed in 17 years, at least the UI. And it would have cost them millions to be able to upgrade. It's not as simple as, updating my iPhone from iOS 15 to 16 or whatever. And in other cases, it could be tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars and a long process. This isn't just flip a switch. It's especially if you have a massive inventory and everything. How is Commercient kind of helping avoid that, replacing Sage 200 by syncing all of that data over, while still keeping, the accounting portion alive for, I'm guessing, like invoicing purposes and whatnot?
All right, I wanted to jump in here and piggyback off what you said, because another thing that is very significant, especially with our company, and this definitely gives credit to the vision of our CEO, because companies our size typically don't invest the amount of money that we're investing in Salesforce and investing in a tool and solution like Commercient. The amount of efficiencies and what that does for us to be able to drive sales revenue is far beyond, the rewards are so far beyond what the initial investment is. It's tough for smaller companies to look at that kind of investment and that high caliber of a machine, which is Salesforce, and even syncing it with an ERP system. It's not something that smaller companies do. So I wanted to bring up that fact because to me, that's almost a bigger decision that you'd make than getting a new ERP system in itself.
Okay.
Because even if you get that new ERP system, which is a huge investment, you're still limited on what you can do on the sales side, especially. So they kind of work together, and I don't really see it as you're choosing one over the other, but more holistically, what is the business trying to do? And whatever that investment is, you count the cost. And then after you count that cost, what is the value that we can extract from it? And I think the key there is having a team that can execute and extract that value, because it all sounds good when you're making the proposal to your CEO, but it's a different story when you're actually going through the motions and you're showing what you promised that was going to be the results of those investments.
Awesome. And I guess that kind of goes into adoption of new technology. Salesforce, we use Salesforce, and I think we're pretty good with adoption and everything. How did you motivate your team to really take it from just the classic to this even more powerful version of Salesforce and say, wow, this really does help with our sales, it helps with our efficiency and everything?
The pain and the frustration, just like in sales, if we're not finding pain and finding discomfort in our customers, we're never going to make a sale. And the same is with getting buy-in from your team. If you can't find the pain, or at least exacerbate that pain in a way to where it gives more damaging effects in the future. So then you're talking about the implication of pain. What does this look like if we don't change? What does this look like if we continue to operate this way? So, our team was very frustrated with, going the long route, and everything, again, had a workaround or some kind of, janky process that you just can't write down on paper and train someone to do. It's, kind of like the front yard mechanic. On older cars, you're always rigging something or coming up with some kind of you're jerry rigging something and coming up with a solution that may be in your head because you've done it a couple of times, but it's not something that you can replicate day after day after day and improve those efficiencies. So that's, I guess, it's finding the frustration and finding out where your team wants to get better. Because if you have a team that's frustrated and you're not building the structure that they need to be their best, the best version of themselves, they're going to take that frustration home. They're going to take it elsewhere. So as a leader, it's our job to find that, get them to vocalize that, and then, paint what a better future looks like. And that's kind of been the testimony of our people. I remember the first couple of years that I started, there were long, especially learning how to be a Salesforce admin. Those were some sleepless nights. So I can imagine, what the team themselves were taking home. But it's a night and day difference where we are now. It's a lot more optimism, a lot more hope. And anything now that we come across as a challenge or an obstacle, we look at it with a smile, because we know on the other side of that challenge, working together, we can figure something out that's going to then improve how we do things even better.
Awesome. Probably last question about Salesforce. Do the two manufacturing plants overseas, are they using Salesforce as well, or are they using different software to help them out?
In a very limited capacity. There's not a lot to where, from what we do in Salesforce, that we would need a lot of collaboration on. We get on the project side. We have a project object in Salesforce, but we're talking about two different languages, Portuguese and Korean. So there's very few systems that will translate that that kind of workflow. And each factory too, they're also empowered, and they have their own own processes and the way that they manufacture products, procure raw materials, and that's that's pretty much about as far as we can take it at this point. Are there ways to increase the collaboration and workflow? Absolutely. There's always areas for improvement, but at the same time, we have over 400 employees in Brazil and over 200 employees in South Korea, whereas we have 10 to 12 here in Michigan. So what we're doing here to be the tip of the spear, and especially at the rate and the pace that we're going, there's not necessarily time to pull the car into the garage and put it on jacks and give it a tune-up. We're on the track making good lap times right now. Probably the best example I can give.
Wow, that's awesome, and thank you for explaining that. If you have on the leadership side, if you have 2 or 3 tips to help people maybe new to a leadership role or to just become a better leader, what would be your top tips for them, Scott?
First and foremost, I'm very much a John Maxwell disciple. The first leadership book I ever read was the 21 Irrefutable Laws to Leadership. And one of my favorites in there is the law of navigation. It's actually law number 4. It says that anyone can steer the ship, but it takes a leader to chart the course. And, people love steering, they love being in control, but it takes a lot of forethought and a lot of sacrifice to be able to chart the course. Another solid principle that I like is from 360-degree leader is that, leaders have to be okay with working in obscurity. And if anything that you do never saw the light of day, or you never got credit for it, in your heart of hearts as a leader, would you be okay with that? And if you can answer that question, I think that's liberating as a person and as a leader, because there's the constant seeking that everybody on planet Earth goes through, that we're always seeking worth, we're always seeking value, we want to be liked, we want to be noticed, we want to be up, we want to have recognition. And I think that's a need that everyone has. Even the darkest, most depressed person, I think, still has that need, just as the person that's on top of the world that gets all the spotlight. So that need still exists in each and every one of us. But the moment that you can decide, okay, I'm content if this never comes to pass, or if no one ever sees what I do. So that's kind of at the core of it all. And again, to not sound cliche, you're serving your people. What do you need today? What obstacles are in front of you? What can I help you do to get past that first one of the day? What's causing a log jam? And that all comes on the heels of understanding who the team members are as people. What is their life like outside of work? What are their motivators and drivers? Because you can have one person who is motivated by money, but they want that money so that way they can achieve a certain lifestyle for their family. Someone else could be more of a, hey, I just want to have a place where I belong and where work is a joy to come to. So the motivators are different for everyone. So I think you have to know that first, before doing the latter.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Scott. I really appreciate you taking the time today to share some of your philosophies and tips about leadership, and also how your company is benefiting from Salesforce and Commercient. If they want to learn a little bit more about DoRodo, where could they look?
So our website is DoRodo.net. That's DoRodo.net, and it's actually the real word DoRodo has an A in it, which is a kind of like a mahi. So it's a funny story of how our company got its name. It was a fishing expedition in Brazil, and every time a fish was caught, it would yell DoRodo. So how it got spelled the way that it did, that's still a mystery. But it involved a lot of good times and a lot of drinking, a lot of fishing, which I think everybody can draw the conclusions from there. It's a fun company to work for. There's a strong vision. We come to work with purpose every day, and that's what makes it fun. Our 2 brands, there's footmastercasters.com and sciopacasters.com. So either one of those, you can check out each brand. Each one has a purpose and where they fit in the market. Footmaster, highly engineered products, very innovative. We have products that are the first of several, going all the way back to the 80s. And our partner Sciopa, been manufacturing casters and wheels for over 70 years now. And nobody combines function and style like Sciopa casters. So we have a pretty wide array of things to offer. So we're never in situations to where we like to say no. If someone asks us, hey, can you do this, or do you have this? If we don't have it, we make it. So we hate telling people no.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Scott, and take care.
Hey, I'm honored that you have me. Thank you so much.